Hi, I'm Wendy. I'm the CEO of Everlasting Herb Farm here in Peacham, and I'm a big Rosemary Gladstar fan. I don't know too many people who aren't. We're in Peacham, Vermont at Everlasting Herb Farm, home of Meadowbee deodorant. And I want to tell you a little bit about my herbal journey, the herbal path that I've been on. I grew up in Vermont, and my mom had beautiful flower gardens, and we had vegetable gardens, and at that time as a teenager, I wasn't interested in plants. I became a Peace Corps volunteer in the Dominican Republic, early 20s, not interested in plants. But when I became a new mom and I had my first house, I thought I really wanted to smell really great. So, at the time, I was teaching high school health down in southern Vermont, and I had the good sense and fortune to have a whole bunch of guest speakers come into my classroom, and one of them was named Isabel Hadley, and she changed my life because she passed around large jars of colorful dried herbs and little vials of essential oil, and I was hooked. After I learned with Isabel Hadley and learned about herbs from her, we moved to northern Vermont to this farmhouse where we've lived 26 years. And as luck would have it, we were 30 minutes door to door to Sage Mountain, where the famous Rosemary Gladstar lived and taught. At the beginning of my journey of becoming an herbalist, I became an intern at Zach Wood's Herb Farm, not too far away from me, with Jeff and Mel Carpenter. After I was an intern with Jeff and Mel, I began an herbal correspondence course with Rosemary Gladstar, and it was a really exciting day when I went to Sage Mountain to pick up my correspondence course in person. But I absolutely loved the course because I could go at my own pace, my kids were little, I could study when I had time, and I found out quickly that I really enjoyed making salves because you could take oils, which are kind of messy, infuse herbs, including weeds, and then add a little bit of beeswax or another wax and make them solid and easy to apply to the skin. So in addition to taking the course, being only 30 minutes door to door to Sage Mountain, I eventually began taking courses at Sage Mountain. And I know this is all about the herbal correspondence course, but I just wanted to mention that I was really fortunate to be able to go to Sage Mountain and learn so many things from so many herbal teachers, and I just really was able to further my study. I believe that you can do that online now through Rosemary's class because she has so many teachers that she's worked with, and I believe her correspondence course covers them as well. I was also an intern for Rosemary, and I quickly found out that I really don't like weeding. I'm not much of a gardener. I don't like being out when it's too hot, when it's too windy, when it's too wet. I'm a little bit picky that way, but if you saw my gardens today, you would understand that they're kind of jungle-like. Everything gets to live. I love to plant things and just see how they flourish on their own or not, and I just kind of find the whole science experiment of it all very fun. I started Everlasting Herb Farm back in 2003. And it was kind of a side hustle. Again, my kids were little. It was just something to get my brain into, and it was just really fun for me to do. And then I went back to teaching full time because I'm a teacher, and that's what I've done most of my life. But a friend of mine suggested that I send some of my products to a large Vermont retailer because we were looking at catalogs, and she said, they make a lot of things like what you make, but they don't sell exactly what you make. You should send them some of your products. And I looked at her and I remember smiling and shaking my head and saying, yep, that's a great idea. So I took every product I made, put them in a box, addressed it to no one in particular, and sent it off. And 4 days later, I was speaking to no one in particular, and I've worked with them for 12 years since, white labeling and making products for them. Working for this large Vermont retailer overtook our entire house. The mudroom became a warehouse of boxes, the office was now a whole storeroom of ingredients, and our dining room wasn't for eating anymore, it was for making products. Eventually, my husband and business partner, Matthew, built a barn in the backyard to fit into the neighborhood. It just looks beautiful. He took the downstairs, I got the upstairs, so we moved Everlasting Herb Farm out into the backyard. At the beginning of the pandemic, I was asked by a local woman to help her because she couldn't apply deodorant to one side of her body because she'd had a stroke, and she asked me to make her a cream deodorant. And at the time, I had been wearing natural deodorant, and I had no idea they could actually work because most natural deodorants don't work, and I had never heard of a cream deodorant. But my Achilles heel is that I wanted to help her, so I thought, what have I got to lose? I can help her. I can try. Around about the same time when the pandemic started, I got some funding, some technical grant money from NCIC over in northern New Hampshire, and they helped fund a 3-year course that I took through Formula Botanica in London. And they're an online cosmetic formulating school. Everything's organic. And I learned a lot through Formula Botanica. So what I did is combine what I was learning from them with what I had already learned from Rosemary. I learned about a whole bunch of new plant-based ingredients, plus new methods that I had never heard of before. And one of them was a cold blended cream. And you could take an oil and you could take some butters and you could mix them together and you could get a cream-like substance. And I did that. And then in Vermont, we had a couple of days where it was abnormally hot. It's not normally that hot in Vermont. But when I went back to check on my samples that I was testing, the jar had deflated. So I had half the amount in the jar that I started with, and it was not a good thing. But I looked really hard at that jar and I thought, okay, I know what I can do to you. And I actually remember talking to the jar and I thought, okay, I'm going back to my roots, my Sage Mountain roots, my Rosemary Gladstar roots, and I used some techniques I had learned from Rosemary to work with this new product. And it basically took 2 years of trial and error, testing it on family and friends, testing it by the wood stove so it wouldn't melt. But I perfected the format for this new cream deodorant and also a solid bar deodorant. And that was the beginning of Meadow Bee deodorant. It took 2 years to perfect Meadow Bee, but in 2023, we won a couple of international awards in the 2023 Beauty Shortlist competition. And most recently in 2024, our business won one of the 9 awards given out by the SBA here in Vermont. And we're the only business in the Northeast Kingdom, and we received the 2024 Micro Enterprise of the Year. I get to do what I love every single day. I have a 25-step commute to the backyard, which is way better than the 45-minute commute one way to school. And I get to make products that make me so happy and soothe people's skin, and I have a strong customer following, so I'm really proud of that. Rosemary's course, her Art and Science of Herbalism, put me on this path. And I'm really thankful for Rosemary, the plants, and the magical fairies in my garden. I've been on a wonderful herbal path, and I can't wait to hear about your herbal path. And it will probably start with Rosemary Gladstar's Art and Science of Herbalism.